Hi, good evening. I just want to really thank Oded and Natalie and everyone and Liron and Varda and Dr. Wexler for this opportunity. I think that as a pediatric oncologist, as you'll hear in a few minutes, it's my life's journey to be a part of the oncology community. But connecting with my child's cancer has enabled me to broaden my horizons, connect with more families all around the world, and to partner with those families and the physicians to provide the best care. The one thing that I think didn't say, we do complicated cases, but we give also opinions on upfront diagnoses. One of the things that is so hard for a family to hear is that your child has cancer. And to feel lost in the world and not connected to anyone and not trust anyone. You know, in today's day and age, everyone's looking on the internet for the right answer, but the answer might not be so clear to somebody who's new at this. And so just saying to the family, we would do the exact same thing, you're in excellent hands, sometimes can be incredibly reassuring. And so where the complicated cases and novel therapies are important, sometimes letting them know that they're getting the best care that's available and the same care is also really important. So I feel like that's a vital part of the relationship that we've established. And I really enjoy meeting with the families and working with an organization that is truly altruistic. You know, sometimes organizations develop characteristics that are more about improving their name and getting out there. This organization is all about helping the families, helping the physicians here, and improving care. And that's really what it's all about, is helping more and more children, and it's really my honor and privilege to be part of it. So I'm gonna share a little bit with you about my journey. So a little background for those of you that are not forced into the pediatric oncology world, but basically, and my statistics are United States statistics, I apologize, just that's where I'm from. We take care of about 16,000 children in the United States with cancer, which is very different than the adults. In the United States, there's about 1.6 million adults who have cancer. So it's a very small proportion of the people diagnosed with cancer. And cancer in children is very different than cancer in adults. In children, there are usually more leukemia, lymphoma, brain tumors, and then a whole host of other tumors, but they are a different biology in general. So children are not little adults, and we really have to focus on therapies that are targeted for children. And the good news is that we have a lot of cooperative groups, so cooperation is the most important thing in pediatric oncology, and because of these groups that have worked together, the survival has gone up to over 80–85%, which means that most of our children go on to be long-term survivors and can be cured of their disease. Okay, which in the United States, we're talking about over 400,000 children are survivors of childhood cancer, and over the next few decades, you'll see close to 500,000 survivors of childhood cancer. So that is an incredible number, because years ago, and not that many years ago, the survival was very, very low. Sorry. Okay, this is technically difficult. Oh, you have a clicker?
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. So this talk is not necessarily so technical, but it is very personal. So I just wanted to say that consent was obtained to use all of these pictures. And that's me. So this story is actually my story. I was still chubby as a baby. It's not really my fault, it's all my parents' fault. I grew up in Brooklyn. I was the youngest of 3 children. I had a fairly normal life until I was 11. I like to tell the story that I was a gymnast, but really I was taking a gymnastics class. And fortunately, I was not so good at it. And instead of jumping over the horse, I ran straight into it and threw up all over. So after getting in trouble for eating hot dogs right before class, which landed all over the floor, a few days later, my stomach blew up to look like I was 6 months pregnant. So my parents took us to the doctor, Dr. Redner, who examined me, said, well, maybe it's an appendix, maybe it's a mass, and he sent us to the hospital. So when we were in the hospital, the doctors were talking all around me, and they said, well, maybe she's pregnant. And I said, I'm 11 and I go to yeshiva. I am not pregnant. So they said, maybe we should talk outside the room because I think she understands what we're saying. So after that, they left the room. They did an ultrasound. They found a mass around my ovary. And the decision was to do surgery. But as all good Jews do, we went from hospital number 1 to hospital number 2 because whatever the opinion in hospital number 1 is, it's never good enough. It turned out to be the right option because the first hospital had planned to do a total hysterectomy and the second hospital only took out my ovary and the tumor with it. When we were on the way from hospital number 1 to hospital number 2, I said to my mother, what if it's cancer? My mother's like, how do you know what cancer is? You're 11. And I said, there was some lady on TV and she had a mass in her breast and she had cancer. And so my mother said, if it's cancer, then we're going to deal with it. And really my mother shaped the entire journey with that. Whatever it is, we're going to deal with it. We're going to focus on getting better, and whatever we have to do, we will move on from there. So what happens when hospital number 2, they take out the ovary, they say it's a tumor, but they don't say anything else. This Dr. Siegler, who was our incredible messenger, he told us that the tumor board was meeting on Thursday afternoon and that he would come by after the meeting. And around noon, he strolls in, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, isn't the meeting in the afternoon? And he said, oh, it was this morning, but I didn't want you to feel so bad waiting all day for the results. So I told you it was in the afternoon, which was a very important lesson for me, right? Because the worst thing is the time from diagnosis to getting the answer, right? You don't know what's going on. You don't know what to do. And so as a physician, I now try to tell my families that the information will come out a little bit later so that they're not as worried. I think it's really important to share with the families as soon as you have the information, and it really changes the way that I look at things. So just because as a Jewish family, you had to go from hospital number 2 to hospital number 3 because that's the next step. When we went from, when we were at the second hospital, we ended up speaking with the doctor on the phone who said, you need to come in for treatment. And I'm like, okay, but can I just go home for the weekend? And he's like, hi, who are you? So I took the phone from my mom, said, I really need to get some time. I can't really come right now for treatment. And he's like, okay, you could go home. And so this Dr. Michael Harris, for those of you who know his name, he's really an extraordinary person, and he created this incredible relationship between me and him and my parents. He gave me the power to say, this is what I need, and without interfering with my therapy, but being able to give me the power to be involved in it. He also, when I ultimately got to the hospital, we sat down, we had a meeting, he told me everything that was going to happen. I was going to get chemotherapy, I was going to be on treatment for a year, I was going to lose my hair. At the end of the chemotherapy, I was going to have another surgery. I felt like we were partners in this process, that I wasn't left out of the process. And I think it's very important to make sure that the family and the child is all part of the process. My mother was an incredible person who just really said everything was about being positive and created all of these wonderful things around it. I don't really have very many negative memories, and most of our memories are incredibly positive. And she really supported me in all that I needed to do and express myself. Yes, that is chocolate frosting on my face, and allowed me to sort of act out in a way that wasn't dangerous, but also to empower me to do things that were good. one of the things she did is that back then there was no Zofran, no medicine for nausea, vomiting. Everything was, a lot of vomiting, a lot of nausea. So she found an allergist, a doctor, who was using hypnosis for his patients to help control the nausea and vomiting. And she and Dr. Harris brought this doctor to the hospital, and they had him teach me how to do it. And never one to lose out on an opportunity. I actually charged admission for the residents to come in. 5 cents doesn't sound a lot, but I did sell them pizza at $1 a slice. So I made a huge profit. I'm not sure that was the opportunity that my mother wanted me to take, but the truth is the hypnosis actually cut my vomiting in half. So there's a lot to be said about complementary and powerful thinking involved in the process for the families. And so the support of loved ones around them, as well as team members, that having more people on your side is really an incredible part of the journey. This was my half birthday. I told my mother, in case I didn't survive till my whole birthday, I should get a half birthday. I think I really just wanted the cake because it was an ice cream cake, and I loved ice cream cake. But you'll see that there's somebody like hiding on the side over there. So that's my dad. I don't really seem to talk about my father when I talk about this. It's because most of the time my father would drive us to the hospital, drop us off, and then go to work, or he would run outside to pay the parking meter because he just couldn't handle it. When I was 11, I thought my father didn't like me. I thought he didn't want to be around me, and it turned out that it was just so painful for him to watch that he couldn't participate. And it took me really probably a good 10 years before I realized that everybody's different, and even though my mother was defending me and with me all the time, my father loved me, he just couldn't handle watching me suffer. But he did drive a little green car, so if you've noticed, the green car's been there all along, it's just in the background. I'm sure you know that when somebody gets diagnosed, the first thing they get is like 1,400 stuffed animals. I only had 272. They all had names. They all had personalities. And remember, this is back in 1979, probably before some of you were born. And there was no play therapy. There were no organization. There was no My Child's Cancer. There was no one to support you through this process. So it was really my mother and my brother who tortured me, but also he created a voice for each animal. And I was able to express my emotions and my feelings through each of these animals. Of course, the poor giraffe did get put up in the lamp, in the chandelier in the house, and almost burned the house down, because that's just what big brothers do. This is my whole birthday. I made it. Those were the presents. I know they were really good because I bought them myself, I wrapped them myself, I made my whole family watch me unwrap them, including the cat. This is the first time after therapy that I took off my bandana. I wore a bandana the whole time. I did have a wig, but again, it was 1979, so it was a $25 wig from King's Plaza. And it was very, very itchy. And I went to like a school play because my mother brought me to school every month to be with the children. I didn't go to school for the whole year. And when we were at the play, somebody looked at me and said, "Wow, your hair looks really dry." And she went to go touch it, and it fell off in her lap. So she started screaming. I started laughing. Like, I knew I was wearing a wig, so it was okay. But it was a little traumatic for her. But the first time I took it off, we were at a hotel, and I wanted to go swimming. And so I took the elevator all by myself, and my mother chased me and took a picture. But when I got to the pool, there was a teenage girl. Now it's 1980. And the girl's like, "Oh my gosh, you're so lucky that your parents let you cut your hair so short." I'm like, "Really?" And it was so amazing to me. The first person that I interact with was actually jealous of my hair and what my hair looked like. And so you don't know how powerful your words are and how amazing it could be. Like, it's 40 years later, and I still have that like googly feeling when I think about this girl who liked the way my hair looked. Okay, it wasn't that great, it wasn't that bad, but really it's just an incredible power of what we can do for people and how we can lift them up with our words. So life goes on. I graduated college, went to medical school, got married. Of course, I only had one ovary, so the concern was, what was going to happen. But fortunately, we had twin girls. And then 18 months later, we had another baby, a little boy. So this is just part of our journey and so exciting. A few years later, maybe about, I would say 25 years after I was treated, I developed abdominal pain and ended up with intestinal obstruction from my surgery. And so the reason I bring this up is not to say that I had this terrible side effect, but is to see what it was like as an adult to have a community rally around you, right? So in 1979, 1980, no camps, no organizations, no support groups. But in 2004, 2005, there were just, everybody came out of the woodwork. You know, people were coming and watching my children for me, making meals and helping me. And it just changed everything that I thought about. I really felt like I was so fortunate to be sick to watch everyone around me help me. And so when you're trying to figure out what to do for someone when they're sick, whoa, does that mean my time's up? It's really, anything that you do is helpful. And so when I had one of the obstructions, I was lying on the floor at home, and my very young children, who were 5 and 6, were not behaving. And I said, I can't help you. Just go play downstairs, and I promise I'll get you anything you want. And so they said, I want a piano, I want a drum, and I want a pretty parasol. And I said, anything you want, anything you want. And so while I was in the hospital, I told the story to one of my friends. And right before I was discharged from the hospital, she showed up with a parasol, a piano, and a drum. And it's amazing to me that she was listening to my story, and what she did was just make the experience for my children an incredibly positive experience. So it's not only what you see when you're younger that shapes your lives, it's what people around you do and the gifts that they can bring to your life. I've never been one to separate my family from my job, and we were fortunate enough to go to Camp Simcha in New York, and many of the children from Israel actually come, and it's really wonderful. Having my children grow up in Camp Simcha was a unique opportunity, although one of them always says, when the children would get toys or prizes, I don't understand. There's nothing wrong with them. Why are they getting so many prizes? Which is just amazing. Like, to bring your children up in an environment where people are bald and with one leg and running around and playing. It's just amazing that they looked at these children as normal, because when you're sick, the only thing you want to feel is normal. And so being in an environment like that, or being in a place where all of the people around you are going through the same thing, just makes you feel normal in a very abnormal situation. My children, although people say I tortured them, instead of birthday parties, they used to have present raisers where people would bring them presents, and then we would give them and bring them to the hospital to be donated. And we had a bake sale, and my children also learned to play with frosting on their face. So we have some things that we passed on from generation to generation. And we would, as a Shabbos observant doctor, we needed to figure out a way, when I'm working on Shabbos, what to do with the family. And my husband, who is incredibly supportive, actually would pack up everybody, and we would bring everyone to the hospital, and I would stop rounds at noon and take all the residents, and we would bring them down to our office and have lunch. And so it was an incredible opportunity to open up our lives and continue to bring Camp Simcha during the year. So my kids would play with kids in the hospital. This is before COVID, obviously. And then the only problem was when you sleep in the exam rooms, like when you roll over on the paper, it's a little bit crunchy. But otherwise, it was an incredible time. We were able to celebrate with our patients, families who have children who have survived, as well as families who have lost their child. We actually keep in touch with them, which is really for me, an incredible opportunity to watch their families grow and watch my patients grow. And this is actually my first grand doctor child. I was a grand doctor before I was a grandmother, so it was incredible for one of your patients to have children. There's really nothing like it. And to watch your patients grow up and become doctors and to be survivors, there's beyond expectations of what life is about. I think we hope that all of our patients are cured. We hope that all of our patients don't suffer. But knowing that we can participate in helping them through the process. So I don't give them their disease and I don't take away their disease, but I'm part of the process. And what I can give them is hope and warmth and caring to get through the process. And being a part of this organization has really enabled me to broaden my horizons and give hope and warmth and love to more patients around the world. So this is 40 years later, and that's one of my patients who came to my child's wedding. This is actually my son's Sheva Brachas, and the man in the middle is my doctor. So keeping up the relationship not only with my own patients, but being able to change my doctor from my doctor to my friend and my colleague has been really a remarkable opportunity. So for those of you that keep in touch with your physicians, know that we love it. We love the updates. We love the family news. We love the connection. And so what is wellness? So when you have a horrible experience, and all of us as a people have had horrible experiences this year. So this applies to not just the patients with cancer and the families who are suffering, but it's the ability to reframe the experience. It's the ability to take what you've seen and bringing the community to Tel Aviv and seeing how all of your life is interconnected and how to make it a process where things can get better, and know that you're just a small part of the process and how to help these patients and families. And so overall, my general spiel is, why marry a cancer survivor? And the answer is, they make really cute grandchildren. And I can't, number one, the opportunity to participate in this organization is phenomenal. It is not only helping patients here. I've had 2 patients who've gone on to therapy that I was researching for patients in Israel, and my patients in America ended up going on those treatments. So I can't really, it goes both ways. The learning process for me has been incredible. And being here in Israel, I get to visit all of my grandchildren who are here. So I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to participate and to be able to have a new dimension to my career.
Thank you very much, Caroline.